another edition of General's Report. I'm Caleb Dunlop alongside head women's soccer coach Mark Hammond and head men's soccer coach Mackenzie Young. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Being invited back. Didn't think I'd get the call up, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're back on this, to be fair.
We did have a lot of fun with the players over the course of the season. And,
yeah.
We got Jackie going pretty good that one. Got her riled up pretty good that one time.
She was excited, that's for sure.
She was. Speaking of exciting, it is an exciting time around here. End of the regular season, headed into the Red River Athletic Conference Championship. The men, of course, finish as the 2 seed, get the bye. The women come in as the 4 seed, and we'll play Texarkana on Friday at 1 p.m. at home. We'll start with just general thoughts on the season.
Me or you?
Go for it, Gaffer.
Okay. Good season for the boys overall. Do you know what I mean? Tough one as well. I think the conference showed this year, and especially on the men's side, that the standard of all the teams has increased. Do you know what I mean? And there's no real easy games anymore. And obviously, it's really nice for us to finish in the second spot and get a bye to the semi-final. It's huge in the aspect of getting to rest up some guys that are kind of banged up after the season and getting to kind of not relax, but give them a day off like we did yesterday, and we've not really had the chance to do that all season, so it was very important. And just overall really happy for them. Do you know what I mean? Happy for the senior guys to have success in their last season and kind of see them off in the right way. Obviously we got the Red River Rivalry Trophy. I don't know if you can't say that properly, right? But again, that was something that we've never seen, especially since I've been the coach. So kind of to see guys like Reese and Charlie and Paul that have been here for 4 years get over the line with that was very exciting. So overall good, but I know the guys are on the same page as saying that it's not over yet, and we were talking about that today at training, that we don't want this to be our last week of training. Do you know what I mean? We want to keep practicing next week, and we want to keep moving on even past the tournament if we can. So full focus on a really big week this week.
Yeah, happy with how the season went. Obviously, we had a little bit of a rough start during pre-season. During those regular season games, playing a lot of good sides, and obviously being a younger team this year, it took us a little bit to figure it out. But that's all part of the process. And before the season started, myself and Bailey, when we were sitting down, we were talking about, we'll probably take a couple of licks, as we develop and grow as a unit. I think that, we've gone from strength to strength each week, even if the results may have not reflected on how the team's progress. I think that we've done a good job this season. Individually we've grown as players, and then as collective units, and then as a team as well, we've developed and improved, and I think you can see that way how strong we have been in conference. It's actually the first time since I've been in charge that we've actually won every home game. I think that's kind of been a little bit of our Achilles heel in past years of dropping a soft one at home, but keeping having what was it, five wins at home is really important. We had to be fair, both programs have had a really tough away schedule. I think all the teams that have been competitors have been away games for the most part for both men and women, and so being on the roads, in the Red River is tough to go away from home. Sometimes playing in difficult circumstances, whether it's weather or pitch or something like that, it can be tough to play away. So, but I think we finished the season strong. It was always going to be a tough ask going into the last 3 games this season, when you have to go away to LSUS, at home to LC, which obviously is a rival of ours, and away to Xavier was always going to be a tough ask. But I think that we've shown well in those games, and I've been telling the players, now with how there's only 1 seed in conference play, that are 1 bid to go to the national tournament. Almost these conference games are like auditions. You're going to face good opposition again postseason. So we're looking forward to the quarterfinal. I think it's kind of we've been chatting about it all year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to get the bye? Do you not want to get the bye and keep the rhythm? So it's been an interesting one. Obviously, we would love to be in the position that Mackenzie's in, being able to, maybe have an extra day of training and things like that. But also, we're used to playing home quarterfinals. This will be the 4th year in a row that we've had a home quarterfinal. I expect us to come out and showcase why we were a team that's been to the final 3 years in a row. I think that we need to go and establish the game early, establish our play, and then go and really get after Texarkana. But it's going to be a fun game. It's me and Don have been chatting away, and we're excited to add another chapter to a storied past between LSUA and Texarkana.
You mentioned it, Mark. Team a little bit on the younger side. A lot of younger players making impact, not just on the women's program, but in the men's program as well. Ben McCarron, of course, scoring some very timely goals throughout the year. Shea Maher getting some important playing time. For those young players, very impressive groups on both programs, and they're kind of mixed in with core groups of seniors on the men's side, Paul Adler, Damo, Reese, and then on the women's side, you have, of course, Audie, Lex, Jackie, players who have been here for all three of those finals that you've played in. Audie, of course, setting the women's soccer appearances record at 75 against Xavier. So just talk a little bit about that mix in the two programs, and what it's like to have players who have been there before, and the importance of kind of, I think, instilling in the younger players what it means to be playing in these games.
Yeah, I think especially for us, do you know what I mean? I think the freshman boys that have come in, we knew they were coming into play. They weren't just here to be part of it. They were here to really join in with the senior lads and really show them what they've got. And you've seen that over the course of the year. It's like Ben coming in, scoring 8 goals in his freshman season, and had 1 start. Do you know what I mean? That shows the level he's at. And Shea's played in just about every game, got a lot of good starts as a freshman player. You've got Diego, who's a freshman. Ivan is a freshman for us as well. So a lot of our main players, especially that are playing heavy minutes, are young, which is obviously really nice for me as a coach, that you've got these guys hopefully for 4 years if they can stay and be part of us. But to carry on into next year, when you are losing 13 senior players, that the likes of Paul and Reese and your captains or your leaders that are on the group, that when they're moving on, these guys will know kind of what the culture is, what we'll set, what the standards are. And it's good to see the senior boys kind of showing these freshman boys that, hey, after we play these semi-final, final, however far you go in the season, your season's done and you don't kick a ball again till August. So it's like really making sure that they're switched on, really making sure that this isn't just a normal training week, or these aren't just normal games that are coming up. Like the free hits and all that are gone now, and like you said, it's a new season. You win or you go home. Do you know what I mean? So it's been good. I think they've integrated into the squad really well, and they've fit in, and especially like Shea and Ben. Like, I know they've only been here for 4 months, but it feels like they've been here for 2 or 3 years now. Do you know what I mean? They've just fit in so well and settled down quickly. So I think that's a testament to the seniors, and I think that's a testament to the returning boys that have just carried on the culture that Coach Keelan and I have created for the programme. And it's refreshing to see. Like, sometimes you're standing there and you don't have to tell them that these things need to be on, and you don't need to tell them to pick things up or where things need to be. So we'll lose out on that next year, but we're hoping that bringing in these new younger boys that have been involved and have seen what it is can carry on the torch for the boys that are moving on next year.
Yeah, no, completely agree with what Mark is saying there. Having experienced players that can pass down the culture is huge. And I just kind of go back to like our first year when we went to the final. I remember like we're sitting and having breakfast, and I've said this story before to the girls and things like that. But our first year, like sitting there and having breakfast, and I hear like a couple of players who maybe have not tasted being in a final before, saying like, I can't believe we're actually here. You know what I mean? And you have to create that expectation. You know what I mean? And for me, obviously we went and we lost that final, unfortunately, after extra time and stuff like that. But the next year when we were in Texarkana, like, you just knew that we were going to get the job done from that experience, from those players who were there the year before, able to, pass on the little things of like, what you need to be doing in the hotel the night before to prepare to play, or like the day in between the final. Like, I mean, obviously nerves can build up, but the players who have been there before, it was such a nice and relaxed environment that, even going into the final, we were like, yeah, I knew we were going to win. You know what I mean? And having those players that have been there, done that, is huge. Obviously we've had, Lex, Audie and Jackie reaching their 3rd final. Pauline's coming back for, they're all reaching their 4th final, hopefully. Pauline would be coming back, after playing in 2 finals as well. I mean, we have a lot of players that have been there, 2 or 3 times, is so huge, because it's different when you go to Texarkana. It's a neutral site, it's an AstroTurf pitch, it's a little bit colder. Most of the time we end up playing in some type of rain or
something,
sleet or something. You know what I mean?
Every
So
time, yeah.
to have players that are comfortable to being up there and have played in big games up there and know what the environment is like is essential to pass down to the players. And I think credit to the young players as well that come into the program. We do things differently. A lot of these players maybe have not experienced a Scottish coach or an Irish coach, and we're on the edge a little bit.
Speak for yourself,
right.
mate.
You know what I mean? So like there's that adaptation period and things like that. You know what I mean? So as I said, this is where everybody wants to play, and I always tell players, like, you want to play in the big games. You don't want to play, no disrespect, you don't want to play Texas College and that. You know what I mean? They're games that are no fun for when you're 5-6-0 up at halftime. You want to play in the games where it's tight, where there's some jeopardy in the game and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great experience for the younger players, but for us, we're treating it as a business trip. You know what I mean? We know what the assignment is, and you got to go and get it done. You know what I mean? No excuses. It's, as what Max said, it's win or go home. And you know what I mean? And that's the thing for those players who maybe haven't experienced a college game. It's a long spring. Yeah. It's a boring spring as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? No matter how much we try and make it enjoyable for the players. You know what I mean? There's nothing like playing week in, week out, and having that break is a killer. So you want to make the most of the fall when it's here.
And it's coming off a year in which last season both programs, a little bit of disappointment at the end of the year. Women go to Penn's, and the men in the semifinal. Mm-hmm. For those players who are returning, that bitter taste. You guys played. You guys know. It's that you made the analogy way back in August of the hunger and maybe feeling a bit full after you win it a year, and then you come back and maybe you're not as intense about going after it. And so for after a year where you get to the end, you're right there, you can taste it, but you don't come home with it. What's that feeling like for those returning players that are here that tasted that last year?
Yeah, I think now that we've hit this time of the year and we are preparing for post-season play, I think even today in training you've seen just a different side to some of these guys. When I brought it up at the end of training, like I'll never forget Fede after last year when we lost to Xavier in overtime. Didn't want to eat in the restaurant, didn't talk to anybody, and even I don't think I've seen him for a couple of days. You see him walking on campus and he would come say hi and he was to himself and he was quiet. You look at him now and you can tell, like, in the way he's acting and the way he's pushing each guy around him. Like, I'm not sitting in that restaurant after Monday night feeling that same way again. And I think the rest of the guys feel the same way. Do you know what I mean? We've not been as fortunate as the women's side have to taste finals yet. Do you know what I mean? Especially since I've been in charge, it's been semi-finals and we dropped short in a quarter-final the year before that. Do you know what I mean? And both semi-finals we've played have been last-minute killers, and we've been in the game and it's been tight, and we've just not found that bit of luck to get us over the line. Where I think this year we've just seen a different aspect to the way the guys are approaching the game and treating the game, and I feel like we have match winners in not just one position now. I think there's a couple guys that can chip in and get the job done for us. And obviously these are games you rely on these big players, right? Like, for example, like Pablo's one of them. Reese, Damo are another set of them. You've got boys in the midfield like Fede's there, Zach's there, Diego's there, like, and that's your initial group. Whereas you've got these guys coming off the bench that are chomping at the bit now. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them are in their last season as well, and all they want to do is get over the line, because we've seen a lot of guys come through the program that probably should have tasted success a little bit more, like Valley. He was a 4-year player and never got the job done, and guys like that, it's like those are the ones I want to see succeed. For me, I don't care about the trophies and all that stuff. Yeah, it's nice to put them on your CV and all that stuff, but I want to see these guys that have gave so much to me as a coach, especially Reese, Paul and Charlie. They welcome me from my interim years and never walked out the door and stayed, and those are guys I really want to see have that success. So I think you can tell there's a different feeling going into even today in training, like guys, even the warm up was loud, and that's not every day for us. Rondos were intense. Guys are sliding. Guys are getting into it and getting active, and I think that kind of came off of a result on the weekend there. I think Shreveport one hurt us mentally and physically and probably emotionally as well as a group. That we played LC and we won the game, and I think years prior that would have been a massive result for us, and we'd all have been in the change room celebrating, and it just wasn't like that. There was like a hangover from the Shreveport game, and I feel like the Xavier one kind of took us over that line, and I think the whole mood of the squad shifted. I think the whole focus group is like, all right, we can do this now. Do you know what I mean? And I think getting over the Xavier hump was another one for us. It was 4 games we hadn't scored against them, 4 games we hadn't won against them, and 2 seasons in a row they've ended ours. So I think no matter who we get on Monday, I think we'll be ready, and I think the guys are ready. And again, it's going to be 7:30 in Texarkana. It's going to be freezing, and it's different, a different environment, and it's different playing style, different surface. It's not the same sort of turf. It's going to be wet, slick. It's going to be a good high intensity game. So we're excited. But at the same time, we've still got a lot of prep to do in order for Monday to come through.
Yeah, complacency is a killer, and I definitely felt that we probably had a little bit of that last year. And not like that we just were going to go and win it. It was more of like, oh, we've tasted success and we know what it all feels like. And, you know, when you have to, you know, earn it, I think that gives you that little extra bite, you know what I mean? And I think that, like, you know, we've all played here and things like that, and we've seen how far the program's come in the, you know, 11 years or so that the program's been here. You know, we're talking about no dressing rooms and, you know, rough pitch, no training ground and things like that, to now having training pitch, dressing rooms, you know, dugouts, all that good stuff. And the program's improved, but you know, just speaking on the women's side, like, we haven't really had that success of, you know, a sustained period of, you know, competing for championships and things like that. And, you know, we're in, you know, a great spell right now of, you know, competing, like, you know, yeah, we've finished, you know, 3rd and 4th the last, you know, 4 years or so, but, you know, we're only, you know, 3-4 points off winning the league, and then obviously reaching the final and things like that. And I think sometimes you can, you know, when, you know, you've seen the track record, people just expect it to happen, but, you know, how you get there is by what you do on the training pitch, you know, what you're doing in the classroom, what you're doing in the weight room. You know, all these things are so important, and I'm a big believer that, you know, the harder I work, the luckier I get, you know what I mean? And you know, when, you know, maybe you're not as successful as you want to be, I look at, you know, the small details. You know, are we, you know, turning up, you know, ready to train? You know, in training activities, are we giving everything that we have? Are we cooling down properly? Are we stretching after, you know, when we wake up in the morning? All these, like, little things, I think, you know, win a championship. You know, I think people get there and they expect, like, oh, it's just, you got to win the quarterfinal, semi-final, and final. That is straightforward. I think there's a lot of things that you have to do right. You know, you got to act right in the hotel. You got to, you know, be polite to the waiter who's feeding you the night before. You know what I mean? There's so much that I think goes into, you know, winning a championship. And, you know, if you aren't doing those right things, I don't think that you get rewarded for, you know, whether you want to call it God, universe, energy, whatever. I think that, like, you know, you get rewarded for doing the right things. And, you know, credit to the boys this year. Has been a huge shift from, you know, where they were when Mackenzie took them over to, you know, even last year they were right on the edge. And, you know, I can, you know, back them there when I'm watching them play. You see there's a different togetherness, and, you know, a lot of that is sometimes togetherness comes from hurt, you know what I mean? And when you lose, you know, the way they lost last year, you know, that can bring a group together. It can also tear them down. It depends on, you know, you need strong leadership from the coaching staff, from the core group. And, you know, I think that we've had that as well on the women's side, like last year, you know, to lose to Xavier on penalties, and, you know, the way we lost, you know, being 2-0 down with 13 minutes left, to get back to 2-2 and then not win the game in regular time, and then to lose on pens, you know, it hurt a lot of those returning players. And, you know, we needed them to feel that, like, you know, what it means to be disappointed. And I think coming in this year, you know, the senior group came in fit. The freshmen, I think a lot of them came in with the idea of, like, hey, there's minutes for me to go and take off players. And, you know, so the attitude's been good. But now it's about, composure as well. We got to go and make sure that we continue to do what we've been doing. I think you can overcomplicate things, and you can change and kind of go away from what has made you successful to try and win a championship. But we want to continue to be who we are. Continue to work on the things that have made us successful in the games, and fine tune some things that obviously some areas that we need to improve on, and hopefully that will get us across the line come next Wednesday, and we'll all be enjoying a beer down in Alexandria.
One of the things this year makes it a little more difficult is only a 6-team field, only one AQ, and that AQ of course going to the tournament champion. So the regular season champion, you come into this, you don't have your AQ bid normally. Maybe they take a little bit off. I mean, you've got it. You can go through. Obviously, you want to play. You want to get more hardware, but maybe you take a little bit off. Now you can't. So that's one more team pressing for everything. How much does that change the dynamic with it being a smaller field and having a bye, and now the regular season champion is still in play for that AQ?
I mean, that's what me and him played in. Do you know what I mean? When we were players, and to me that just seems normal. Do you know what I mean? And I know that also we moved away from it when we had more teams, and now that's all changed again. But I can only really speak on the men's side. There's been 1 year that there's been a bit of a shocker in the last 4. Do you know what I mean? And that was, for me, that was 2 seasons ago when LSUA weren't there and Jarvis were there. And I think that's probably the first time Jarvis have been there, especially since I've known the Red River Conference. And full credit to them, they were a great team that year. But every other year, the top 4's kind of written themselves. You know what I mean? You have half an idea who's going to be there, or you kind of know. So I think moving into tournament time, I think last 2 years when we had the automatic bids, it was 2 or just 1 year?
2, yeah.
2 years. I do think that the weight of winning the regular season is, right, okay, we're good. And okay, you still want to go win it, and you're not going to not try. But deep down in the back of your mind, if today's not our day and we've still got another day next week, I think it's going to shift a lot. I think it's going to add a bit of pressure on, especially to the number 1 seeds. Like, if I'm going in as the 4 playing the 1, or if it's the 5 or 6 or whoever it may be that's playing the 1 seed, you're thinking about what happened in the regular season, and okay, well, they beat us because I think they just went through and beat just about everybody. The other team might overthink things. The number 1 seed might, you never know. But I think it all kind of balances itself out at the end of the season, and the top teams always end up where they should be. And I think you can see that on the men's side. The 6 that are going are probably the 6 that should be going. And I think everything else has just kind of fell in the right way. But for me, Texarkana, I've only seen it happen twice, I think, where the regular season winner goes down and wins the tournament. I think it's so rare. I think just because of different pitch, nowhere really mimics Texarkana unless you're playing at Texarkana in regular season. It's kind of similar to the idea of what like UHV is, or A&M Victoria, sorry.
There you go.
Where they have the pitch enclosed, you know what I mean, with the fence around it, and especially with Texarkana, you're going down and you're almost under everybody, and I just feel like it's a harder place to play. And if you're not going there as a conference winner, you're choking to win something. And I think that's why all these other teams have gone over and got over the line, because they've got a point to prove. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. I just think it's going to be very similar to what tournaments have been like in the past. But I think you'll see a different side to the number 1 seed now, knowing that they have to get over the line just as much as everybody else does as well.
With that target maybe a little bit bigger on their back.
100%, yeah, 100%. And it's, I don't know. I think every year, especially on the men's side, it seems like Shreveport win it. And I think they got over the line 3 years ago, was the first year I've seen a regular season and a tournament winner. And I think going back further was us in 2018, was the last team to do that. And I didn't even count that one because we were co-conference champions. And the footballer in me just doesn't believe in that. We lost the league and we lost the league, and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Shocking decision, that.
But it was nice to get 2 trophies at the end of the year, but everyone was holding the co bit and covering it, just conference champions on the front. But no, I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll bring back kind of what me and him went through, with a 6-team tournament, smaller, and just the environment being a lot more hostile. and a lot more intense. But I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mark. I think this is probably one of the the only countries where you can play games that doesn't really mean anything. I think like we've grown up in environments where if you're not competing for the league, you're competing to stay in the league. So I can kind of imagine being regular season champions, knowing that you're already in the next level or next round of national tournament. That it's easy to take the foot off the gas, especially if things aren't going your way in a semi-final or in a final or something like that. So definitely adds extra pressure for sure for that number 1 seed, because you do all the hard work in the regular season, and it all can get undone on Monday or Wednesday next week in Texarkana. I think that we've been I think we've knocked out the number 1 seed the last 3 years in a row. Or last 2 years in a row. So I think that it's tough because there's no bad teams anymore. The top four are the top four for a reason. And I think when you look at it, the way it's all kind of mapped out, typically, as Mackenzie said, the top 4 teams go to the tournament, and there's only ever 4 or 5 points in the difference, and it's kind of like a mini league. We all beat each other, we all take points from each other. So I think it's going to be fun. And these one-off games are tough because it doesn't matter who the quote-unquote best team is. It's the best team on the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what's refreshing about going into tournament football, is that it doesn't matter what happened in the regular season. It doesn't matter what happened 4 weeks ago. It's what it's about today. Who's best today? Who wants it the most today? So definitely it's going to add that extra edge. It's going to add a little bit extra spice to it. I know that there's everybody will be looking to get revenge, redemption, or to put an exclamation mark on the result from looking at regular season to postseason. So I think we're in for a great week of football, to be honest, and I think that you're going to see 8 games that are going to be really highly contested, and you're going to see some top quality footballers giving it all. And just like us that we're talking about, we want our senior state to get the right send off. I know that's the same conversation that LSUS, Xavier, Olu,
everybody,
Victoria, everybody's having those conversations as well. So there's going to be a lot to play for, and there's a lot on stake. So definitely looking forward to it.
We'll close with one more look back at this regular season. Some memorable bits in both programs. On the men's side, win over number 3 William Carey to open the season, and you close regular season with a win over number 22 Xavier. And on the women's side, you have Adrian Cruz, who sets the appearances record, and then Lex just kind of shatters anything and everything within reach. Just talk a little bit about what those moments mean, and anything that sticks out to you as coaches.
Yeah, I think especially for us to open up the way we did, I think that's what kind of spearheaded the season going the way it did. Because every year it's been opening up with either a tight game or a loss, and for them to really say, okay, we're actually not bad now. Do you know what I mean? We can play here now, and we can win against good teams. I think that gave them the belief, and then again closing out with another ranked opponent win. I don't think there's Xavier, they're an in-state rival, and there's no bad blood or anything between us. But when you don't score for 4 games against one team, it gets pretty personal. Do you know what I mean? And I know myself and Keelan, we celebrated those goals like we've never celebrated any goal this season. But it's just what it meant to the guys, because I know that was a thorn in their side for the last couple of years, especially the boys that have never gotten over the line against them. To come back from 1-0 down and get the job done, just like we did against William Carey. It was a nice way to start and end. It was almost like the same sort of thing. You go 1-0 down, you win the game 2-1 with 2 big moments, and it was senior players that got us over the line in both of the games, I think. It was Paul and Pablo. So I think it kind of puts the icing on the cake for them, but they've all said that that's not enough for them, and that's the right attitude to have. So full focus on Monday, which we'll find out Thursday afternoon who we play, but I think some guys would really like that to be Xavier again, just to run that one back again after the weekend.
One more go.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great individual moments, for me, Audie's, when it got announced, I shared on my social media, and, leader, legend, legacy that she's left behind. You know what I mean? And she's someone that has an incredible story. Walking on as a freshman, starting 15 games, being named as vice captain sophomore year, and unfortunately, our captain Caro tears her ACL. 3 games in the conference. So as a sophomore, then becomes the full-time captain, leads the team to first ever tournament championship, first ever appearance at nationals, and then last year again leading the team to a final, and then this year getting over the line. 75 games. I think there's probably about 71 starts in there or something ridiculous like that. Something that she should be very proud of, and I'm really happy that it's her, because she is a great example to every young footballer who wants to go and have a good career at the college level. That and she'll be honest as well. She's not the best footballer on our team, but she's definitely one of the most important players in our program every year. And I think that eventually down the line she'll be a shoo-in for a Hall of Fame inductee as well. But yeah, credit to her. She's been fantastic, and someone that I can count on week in, week out, every game. It doesn't matter what's going on. She's going to give 110%. She's going to go and fly into tackles. She's going to take the ball to the face and get up and be like, "What is that? All you got?" You know what I mean? And having someone like that has that attitude, that has that dog in her, that that energy spreads around the team. And I know that a lot of these. I go back to senior day when we had a big win against Texarkana, and scoring late on to win the game. And I remember after the game, it was I could see the freshmen and the sophomores and the juniors really play out of their skin, not just to get the result, but for those senior players, because they know what they've given to the program, what they've built in the program. And adding on to Alexia is the go of the program. I'm going to have some sleepless nights trying to think about next year and not having her, because, Miss Reliable, pops up with goals in quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, whenever we need it. She pops up, she puts a team on her back, and to smash the goal scoring record and the assist record. I don't know if it'll ever get touched, to be honest, and I don't know if we'll ever have, I don't think we'll ever have an Alexia Bermejo again in our program, but just some of her performances that she's put in, talking about a real, proper leader in the sides. And San Antonio away was a big one for us after a really poor performance against Olu. We go 1-0 down, and it could have been one of those seasons that we're an okay team, but we just maybe don't have that big bit of quality to get past some of the tougher teams in our conference. But Alexia put the team on her back, and the goal that she scored to equalize right before halftime, and then a header in the second half. I can count so many times how many like that when she's put the team on her back to get us the result, to get us over the line. She's the one who scored the winner in the final 2 years ago. She scored semi-final, she scores finals, so she's been fantastic, and I'm really so proud of the two of them and how far they've come in the program. And it's been a pleasure to coach them, and for me as a coach, for them to be my first freshman to go all the way through as seniors is incredible. Jackie's in there as well. Jackie's been exceptional with how she's led the team this year. How she's helped integrate the new players and things like that. So it's been some great moments this year, but hopefully the best is yet to come.
And with that, we will wrap things up. The women play at home on Friday at 1 against Texas A&M Texarkana in the Red River quarterfinal. I'm Caleb Dunlop for Mark Hammond and Mackenzie Young. Thanks for tuning in.